Today, on an AZOffroad.net special, we head south as we begin our epic 3-day, 130-mile off-road trip on El Camino del Diablo. We'll attempt to cross some of the most remote stretches of desert as we venture along this historic trail along the Mexican border, in the summer, in a 21-year-old vehicle, and by ourselves. What could possibly go wrong? Hello and welcome to an AZOffroad.net special. My name's Scotty Cook.
I'm Daniel New. We're coming to you live at the start, unlike the previous trips where we come at you with stupid cards like that beforehand. Well, we're starting right now at the start of El Camino del Diablo, which is a trail that Scotty will give you more details on.
Yes, thank you, Daniel. We are sitting right now in Ajo, Arizona, at the start of El Camino del Diablo. Now we'll jump to a voiceover. El Camino del Diablo is a 130-mile trail that connects Ajo and Yuma. The 130 miles that exist in Arizona today are really only about half of the original 250-mile road. The historic El Camino del Diablo has been in use for over 1,000 years. Originally used by Native Americans, it was later used by explorers, conquistadors, and even later by pioneers en route from Sonora, Mexico to the colonies of California. It is estimated that around 400 to 2,000 people have died along the trail, depending on the source.
And this is why he doesn't tell me stuff beforehand.
Today, El Camino sits on the Barry Goldwater Bombing Range, Cabeza Prieta National Wildlife Refuge, and Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument. 3 permits are needed to complete the trail. Today, we'd be taking the same Jeep as our last trip with a few upgrades, including a new transfer case and new computer. We were loaded down with gear and supplies, as there would be no services for the entire trip. With 13 gallons of water, 5 extra gallons of fuel, 2 spare tires, and a slew of other things, we felt confident we were ready. So the goal is to not become 2001 and 2, okay?
Yeah, alright.
Alright, let's
Should
go.
be fun.
Let's do it.
Our journey began in Ajo, Arizona, about 40 minutes south of Gila Bend. With the Jeep loaded down with camping and emergency supplies, we headed south and topped off our tank and the reserve tank at the last possible gas station in Ajo. We picked up El Camino 3 miles south of downtown Ajo and aired down.
Camino del Diablo. Let's go!
It was about 3 p.m. when we began moving on the trail.
Actually, I probably shouldn't. I'm trying to conserve as much gas as we can. That's okay. We can afford a few donuts.
The dirt highway heads due south, past mine tailings outside of Ajo. Almost immediately, you come across signs of what makes El Camino so dangerous today. Warning signs that smuggling and illegal immigration could be encountered. We were slightly on edge and carrying several guns, prepared for the worst.
El Camino continues to head south as it winds across several dry washes. At certain points, there is deep sand on the trail and tight sections where you may get some famous Arizona pinstriping. Nothing too serious, however. After about 8 miles, we entered into the Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument, marked by a cattle guard and some informational signs. Not far down the road, we came across another unique feature that reminded us of how close we really were to the border. A humanitarian water station sat a couple hundred feet from an emergency beacon. El Camino today has several emergency beacons approximately every 15 to 20 miles apart. With lights on top and a big red button on the front, they're pretty hard to miss. If you're in dire need of help, you're supposed to push the button and Border Patrol will show up within an hour. This first beacon is where we encountered our second Border Patrol vehicle of the trip. While out looking at the beacon, the agents asked if we were okay. When we told them we were, they asked us not to push the button, which we assured them we certainly weren't planning on it.
Shortly after, we continued on. 16.5 miles from the pavement, we arrived at Bates Well. Bates Well is one of the several old ranches along El Camino. Originally built by Henry Gray, he operated the ranch from 1920 to 1976. This ranch was grandfathered in when the National Monument was established in 1937. Today, Henry's house remains along with several other buildings, cattle pens, and windmills, all within a short walk of the parking area. We spent some time walking around the old buildings before continuing west on the trail. It was now close to 4:30 p.m. and we still had 17.5 miles to go before reaching our campsite.
Past Bates Well, the trail is only for 4x4s officially, although we would remain in two-wheel drive for quite some time down the road. A few miles west of our stop, the road passes through a heavily eroded section, marked with steep dirt embankments on either side of the trail. A unique sight for a place that doesn't get a lot of water. Just past this, we came across the first of two Border Patrol FOBs, or Forward Operating Bases. It is here where the Border Patrol mans an outpost for patrolling the vast expanse of remote and rugged desert in the border region. The outpost seemed quiet, although we had been passing Border Patrol vehicles every so often. Not far east from there, we came across the boundary of the National Monument and the Cabeza Prieta National Wildlife Refuge. We stopped here to fill out a card informing the range of our trip details in addition to activating our permits. Continuing west, the trail remained relatively straight as we crossed the large Growler Valley. After passing a few more emergency beacons, the trail began following a wash. Here, the trail became narrower and the ground became a deep, rutted sand. We managed to stay in two-wheel drive, although you could feel the back end digging in as we trucked along. All of a sudden, we came to a section of unique, paved steel plates. For approximately 1 mile, large sheets of aircraft carrier landing decks lined the road. We figured it must be a measure to help the Border Patrol vehicles navigate this sandy section and reduce the overall erosion of the trail. A brief section of dirt was followed by another section of steel plates. As we drove over, you could hear the metal creak underneath as the Jeep passed over. You hearing that?
Yeah, I'm hearing it. I don't like what I'm hearing.
After this, the trail remained uneventful as we made a long right turn and climbed through Choya Pass. It had been almost 15 miles of open desert, and having mountains around us again was comforting. This might be it right here. This is pretty nice. Just after 7 p.m., we pulled into our first night's camp on the north end of the Choya Hills. We figured this was a safe place to camp since illegal foot traffic would likely not cross directly over the mountain range to our south. The day had been good. We got on the trail late, but had already covered 35 of the 130 planned miles.
We quickly made camp about 50 feet off of El Camino. That is the limit since we were in a wildlife refuge. We got the tent set up, air mattresses inflated, our cooking station ready, and broke out the Mexican beers in honor of our proximity to the border. Luckily, we would be eating quite well. After recently acquiring a family heirloom, an old camping cooking box made by our grandpa and our great-grandpa, we would be eating a nice hot meal cooked on a 35-year-old Coleman stove. The best part, the propane tank, last used in 1982, still worked, which was pretty amazing considering. We started sauteing some veggies and got some water boiling for some instant mashed potatoes. Once that was done, we moved on to the main course, burgers. Although they were nothing fancy, having a nice cooked meal after 4 hours on the trail was spectacular. We ate until we were content.
After cleaning up the dishes, total darkness crept over our camp. Despite both carrying sidearms, we were both still a little nervous about encountering someone or something unexpected moving in the night. It was at this point when we looked up and were quite surprised by one hell of a night sky. You could follow the Milky Way all the way across the sky, and the stars were far too numerous to count. Perhaps the best night sky either one of us had ever seen. After enjoying the unexpected view, we locked up our belongings in the Jeep and crawled into the tent just before midnight. It hadn't been too rough of a day, but we were still exhausted and just getting started on our journey. Next time, we continue with day 2 of our trip and cover over 60 miles of El Camino. We'll cross the dusty Pinta Sands, the rugged Pinacate lava flow, and numerous other mountain ranges as we head west to end the day at the scenic Tinajas Altas.